Did she really think a floor-length floral gown and a few stage smiles at the Met Gala would be enough to bury the most toxic legal battle in modern Hollywood history? Blake Lively is officially finding out that the internet doesn't have an undo button, no matter how many times Ryan Reynolds tries to post a charmingly quirky distraction on his Instagram story. The golden girl of Gossip Girl isn't just losing the plot, she's losing her crown. For months, the world watched as a calculated, high-budget smear campaign tried to turn Justin Baldoni into the villain of his own movie. But guess what? The silence has finally been shattered, and the echoes are currently vibrating through every executive office at Sony Pictures and Vogue. Was the Met Gala actually a victory lap, or was it a desperate, last-minute attempt to hide the fact that her legal team was privately crumbling under the weight of newly unsealed evidence? We are talking about leaked emails, deleted dailies, and a settlement statement so suspiciously worded that it practically screams, "We got caught." Justin Baldoni isn't just speaking his truth anymore, he's dropping receipts that make Blake's fearless narrative look like a cheap, ghost-train fairy tale. Are we witnessing the final days of the Lively Reynolds dynasty? Why is the media suddenly switching sides after months of protecting her? Stay tuned, because we are about to dissect every lie, every hidden clause in that settlement, and the exact moment Blake Lively realized that in the court of public opinion, you can't just edit out the truth. Grab your popcorn, because Hollywood's favorite power couple is officially spiraling. The sheer audacity of the Hollywood elite never ceases to amaze me, especially when you consider the absolute wreckage Blake Lively has left in her wake over the past several months. We are currently witnessing a masterclass in how not to handle a public relations crisis, as the once untouchable Gossip Girl finds herself backed into a corner by the very man she tried to professionally erase. For years, the narrative surrounding Blake and Ryan has been one of perfection, a carefully manicured image of domestic bliss and career dominance that seemed impenetrable to the common scandal. But as the saying goes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and Blake is currently hitting every single branch on the way down. The scandal involving Justin Baldoni didn't just appear out of thin air. It was the result of months of behind-the-scenes tension that finally boiled over into the public eye in a way that no one expected. It started with a whisper, a missed red carpet appearance, a lack of social media interaction, and a very conspicuous silence from the director of the summer's most anticipated film. But while Blake's team was busy trying to frame this as a simple creative difference, the internet was already busy digging up the receipts that pointed to something much more sinister. The public began to realize that the person they saw on screen was a far cry from the person running the set behind the scenes. If we look back at the history of this production, the red flags were everywhere, but we were all too blinded by the floral dresses and the Betty Boss promotions to see them. Insiders are now coming forward to describe a work environment that was less about art and more about ego, where the lead actress allegedly felt she had more authority than the director himself. This isn't just about a few arguments in the editing room. This is about a systemic attempt to undermine a colleague's vision for the sake of personal branding. The industry has seen its fair share of divas, but what Blake is being accused of goes far beyond typical star behavior and enters the realm of professional sabotage. The irony of the situation is that Blake has spent her entire career cultivating an image of kindness and relatability, often positioning herself as a champion for women and a voice for the vulnerable. Yet, the allegations coming out of the Justin Baldoni camp suggest a completely different reality, one where power is weaponized to silence anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. People are now revisiting her past interviews with a newfound skepticism, noticing the dismissive tone and the subtle microaggressions that were previously overlooked. The mask isn't just slipping, it has been ripped off and trampled on by a public that is tired of being lied to by the Hollywood machine. When you analyze the specific details of the falling out, it becomes clear that this was a battle for control from day one. Justin Baldoni, a man who has built a career on emotional intelligence and vulnerability, was reportedly blindsided by the level of hostility he faced on his own set. Sources close to the production claim that every time Justin tried to steer the film toward its serious themes of domestic survivor, he was met with resistance from the Lively Reynolds camp, who allegedly wanted a lighter, more marketable version of the story. It was a clash of integrity versus optics, and for a while, it looked like optics were going to win. But then came the infamous press tour, a disaster of such epic proportions that it will likely be studied by PR students for decades to come. While Justin was out there talking about the gravity of the film's subject matter, Blake was busy promoting her hair care line and laughing off serious questions with a level of detachment that felt genuinely chilling to many viewers. It was in those moments that the tide truly began to turn, as the audience realized that the fearless leader they had been sold was seemingly more interested in selling products than in honoring the survivors the movie was supposed to represent. The public reaction was swift and brutal, with social media platforms like TikTok and YouTube becoming the unofficial courtrooms for this case. Creators began pulling up old footage of Blake being condescending to journalists, contrasting it with Justin's respectful and measured responses. The mean girl narrative didn't just stick because people liked drama, it stuck because there was an overwhelming amount of evidence to support it. Suddenly, the millions of dollars spent on image management couldn't stop the flood of negative sentiment that was washing away years of branding in a matter of weeks. Inside sources from the legal teams involved are now whispering that the pressure became so intense that Blake's side had no choice but to seek a way out before things reached the courtroom. The fear of a public trial, where discovery would have made every single text message and email public record, was reportedly the driving force behind the recent settlement. They knew that if the world saw the raw, unedited communication between the lead actress and the director, the damage to the lively Reynolds brand would be irreparable. They were playing a high-stakes game of poker, and Justin Baldoni just called their bluff. What makes this even more shocking is the reported involvement of Ryan Reynolds, who has managed to stay largely in the shadows while pulling the strings from behind the curtain. For years, Ryan has been seen as the ultimate nice guy, the witty husband who supports his wife in everything she does. But the narrative is shifting to suggest that he was the chief architect of the strategy to isolate Justin Baldoni. If the reports are true, Ryan wasn't just a supportive spouse, he was a silent partner in a campaign to discredit a director so that his wife could claim creative ownership of the project. This level of interference is unprecedented even for Hollywood standards, where power couples often look out for each other. The idea that a major movie star would use his significant industry leverage to move against a director on his wife's film has left many insiders feeling uneasy. It suggests a level of entitlement that is hard to justify, even in an industry built on ego. The public is now starting to question if the perfect couple is actually a calculated power duo that uses their influence to steamroll anyone who doesn't fit into their vision of how things should work. The fallout from these revelations is already starting to manifest in very real ways, as brands associated with the couple begin to distance themselves from the controversy. It is one thing to have a few bad headlines, but it is another thing entirely to have your name become synonymous with workplace toxicity and professional bullying. Marketing experts are warning that the lively effect, which once meant instant success for any product she touched, is now becoming a liability that companies are hesitant to gamble on. The financial implications of this loss of trust are staggering and could reach into the hundreds of millions. As we look at the settlement itself, the language used is a fascinating study in legal gymnastics. The phrase, "deserves to be heard," was touted by Blake's team as a win for her, but anyone with a basic understanding of legal terminology can see it for what it really is, a participation trophy given to someone who lost the actual argument. It is a meaningless platitude designed to save face, while the actual substance of the settlement reportedly leaves Justin Baldoni in a much stronger position than anyone anticipated. He didn't just get a payout, he got his reputation back. The most humiliating part for Blake is the fact that Justin is no longer bound by the same restrictive silence that governed him during the production. While she has to maintain a carefully scripted persona of being unbothered, Justin is now free to navigate his career with the wind at his back. He has the sympathy of the public and the respect of his peers who saw him handle an impossible situation with grace. The truth is starting to leak out through the cracks in the non-disclosure agreements, and every new detail makes Blake look worse than the last. The industry is now watching to see how she will attempt to rebuild. The Met Gala appearance was clearly the first step in that process, an attempt to use high fashion and elite social standing to wash away the stains of the scandal. But even under the bright lights of the red carpet, the questions remained. You can wear the most expensive dress in the room, but you can't hide the fact that your peers are whispering about your conduct. The silence from other major stars during this whole ordeal has been deafening, suggesting that even her friends are waiting to see which way the wind blows before offering their support. We are entering a new era of celebrity accountability, where the old tricks of the trade simply don't work anymore. You can't just buy a positive headline in a magazine and expect people to ignore what they see with their own eyes on social media. The public has become too savvy, too investigative, and too tired of the fake personas that Hollywood tries to shove down our throats. Blake Lively is the current poster child for this shift, a star who thought she was bigger than the truth, only to find out that the truth has a way of coming out eventually, no matter how much money you spend trying to bury it. This brings us to the moment where the power dynamic officially shifted, and the silent director finally found his voice through the legal system. The discovery process during the initial stages of the lawsuit reportedly uncovered evidence that was so damaging, Blake's team was forced to pivot their entire strategy in a matter of days. They went from aggressive countersuits and public dismissals to quiet negotiations and face-saving statements. The reality of what was in those documents is the missing piece of the puzzle that explains why the most powerful couple in Hollywood suddenly decided to settle. It wasn't about moving on, and it wasn't about the work. It was about survival. It was about making sure that the specific details of how they treated their colleagues never saw the light of day in a public record. But they forgot one thing: Hollywood is a small town, and secrets like this are never kept for long. The people who were on that set, the people who saw the tears and the tension, are starting to talk, and they are painting a picture that is far more disturbing than anything we've discussed so far. The narrative of the fearless actress is being replaced by the reality of a professional nightmare that is only just beginning to be fully understood by the public. The transition from the set to the courtroom was supposed to be Blake's final move to crush the opposition, but it quickly turned into a strategic nightmare that exposed the inner workings of her personal brand in ways she never intended. As we move into the second phase of this scandal, the focus shifts from the creative clashes on the set of the film to the cold, hard reality of the legal documents that were never supposed to be seen by the public. Sources close to the legal proceedings have indicated that the initial discovery phase was an absolute bloodbath for the Lively Reynolds team, as Justin Baldoni's lawyers began unearthing a trail of digital communication that told a very different story than the one being fed to the press. The narrative that Blake was a victim of a hostile work environment began to crumble the moment her own emails were brought into the light. In these messages, the tone was reportedly not one of a concerned artist, but of someone who viewed the director as an obstacle to be removed. The industry was shocked to hear rumors of messages where Blake allegedly discussed plans to bypass Justin's authority by going directly to studio heads, using her husband's massive industry clout as a bargaining chip. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a calculated attempt to stage a professional coup on a project she didn't even own the rights to. The public reaction to these leaked details has been nothing short of explosive, with legal experts on various platforms dissecting the implications of such behavior. It highlights a dangerous trend in Hollywood where star power is used to override contractual obligations and professional boundaries. Justin Baldoni, meanwhile, remained remarkably composed, a move that many now see as the ultimate chess play. By staying quiet while Blake's team was loud, he allowed her to overextend herself, making every contradiction in her story more glaring when the evidence finally started to surface in the pre-trial motions. One of the most damning aspects of this breakdown was the revelation of the deleted dailies controversy, which has now become a central theme in the internet's investigation. The allegation is that Blake's team exerted undue pressure on the post-production staff to remove certain takes where Justin's performance or direction was too strong, effectively trying to edit him out of his own movie. When the emails regarding these requests were flagged during discovery, the defense reportedly had no logical explanation that didn't involve personal bias. This discovery sent shockwaves through the editing community, who saw it as a violation of the sanctity of the creative process. As the legal pressure mounted, the financial stakes began to skyrocket. We are talking about a project with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, and the studio was reportedly panicking as the lead actress and the director refused to be in the same room together. The internal memos from the studio that have allegedly leaked suggest that executives were frustrated with Blake's refusal to follow the established marketing plan, instead choosing to use the press tour as a platform for her own brand launches. This was seen as a betrayal of the film's message, and it cost the production millions in lost opportunities and negative sentiment. The role of Ryan Reynolds in this mess cannot be overstated, as his presence was felt in every legal maneuver and every PR pivot. Insiders claim that Ryan was essentially acting as an unlicensed manager, orchestrating the media narrative to ensure that Blake remained the hero of the story. However, this backfired when the public started to see his involvement as a form of bullying. The image of the power couple working together to take down a smaller, less influential director didn't sit well with an audience that is increasingly sensitive to power imbalances and workplace toxicity. The humiliation deepened when the unsealed messages revealed how Blake's team tried to weaponize the themes of the movie to gain public sympathy. The film, which deals with sensitive issues of domestic survival, was allegedly being used as a shield against criticism. Critics argue that Blake's team tried to frame any professional critique of her as an attack on women, a move that many survivors found deeply offensive and performative. This weaponized feminism has become a major talking point, with audiences calling out the hypocrisy of using such a serious topic for personal gain. As the settlement neared, the desperation in the lively Reynolds camp became palpable. They were no longer fighting to win, they were fighting to bury the evidence. The settlement negotiations were reportedly some of the most intense in recent Hollywood history, with Blake's side demanding strict non-disclosure agreements that would prevent Justin from ever sharing the full extent of the evidence. But Justin held his ground, realizing that the public was already on his side. He didn't need a court to prove he was right, the court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. The fallout has extended far beyond the film industry and into the world of luxury brands and endorsements. High-end fashion houses that once clamored to have Blake front their campaigns are now reportedly re-evaluating their contracts. The Mean Girl label is poison for brands that rely on a positive, aspirational image. The irony is that by trying to protect her image at all costs, Blake has managed to damage it more than any director ever could. She has become a cautionary tale for celebrities who think they are above the rules of professional conduct. Even the seating arrangements at the Met Gala have become a source of controversy and mockery. While she was seated near the most powerful figures in fashion, the gossip in those circles was reportedly all about the lawsuit. The elite are often the first to distance themselves from a sinking ship, and the quietness of her peers speaks volumes. In the past, a star of her magnitude would have dozens of high-profile defenders, but in this case, the silence is deafening. No one wants to be associated with a scandal that involves allegations of workplace abuse and professional sabotage. The psychological toll of this public unraveling is starting to show as well. Sources close to the actress say she is furious and devastated that the narrative didn't go her way. This suggests a level of disconnect from reality that is often found in the upper echelons of fame. She reportedly truly believed that her status would protect her from any consequences, and the shock of the public turning against her has left her team in a state of constant crisis management. They are throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, but nothing seems to be working. The internet's role as a digital detective agency has been the most significant factor in this downfall. Every interview, every red carpet look, and every social media post is scrutinized for signs of the ongoing conflict. When fans discovered that Blake had allegedly unfollowed certain crew members who supported Justin, it was shared instantly across platforms, fueling the fire. In the age of social media, you can't hide your true colors behind a polished press release. The public sees everything, and they have long memories. Looking at the settlement through a financial lens, it is clear that Blake's side paid a heavy price for silence. While the exact numbers are hidden behind legal walls, the rumor is that the payout to Justin and his production company was astronomical. This wasn't just a standard settlement, it was a hush money designed to keep the most damaging details out of a public trial. But the problem with hush money is that it only works if people stop talking, and in this case, the talking has only just begun. The settlement has acted as a confirmation for many that the allegations were true. The impact on the film's legacy is also a tragedy in itself. What could have been a powerful statement on an important social issue has been overshadowed by the ego of its lead star. The cast members who are stuck in the middle of this feud are reportedly exhausted and angry that their hard work has been ruined by a PR war they never signed up for. The director, who poured his heart and soul into the project, has had to watch his vision be torn apart for the sake of an actress's vanity. It is a grim reminder of the collateral damage that fame can cause. The legal battle might be technically over, but the cultural impact will last for years. This case has set a new precedent for how directors can fight back against overreaching stars. It has shown that nice guy personas can be a mask for something much more calculating. And most importantly, it has proven that the public is no longer willing to give celebrities a pass for bad behavior just because they are beautiful or famous. The era of the untouchable movie star is officially over, and Blake Lively is the first major casualty of this new reality. As we transition into the final fallout of this situation, the focus turns to what Justin Baldoni would do with his newfound freedom. He has emerged from this battle as a symbol of integrity and resilience, a man who stood up to the biggest powers in the industry and came out on top. The projects he has lined up now are being watched with intense interest, as the industry anticipates his next move. Meanwhile, Blake is left to pick up the pieces of a shattered reputation, wondering where it all went wrong while the world continues to move on without her. The shift in media coverage is the final nail in the coffin. Outlets that once acted as a mouthpiece for the lively Reynolds PR machine are now publishing critical op-eds and investigative pieces that question their influence. The halo effect has vanished, replaced by a cold, analytical look at how they have managed their power. The narrative is no longer about their charm, it is about their accountability. As the dust begins to settle on the legal front, the true cost of this humiliation is becoming clear, and it is a price that even the wealthiest couple in Hollywood might struggle to pay. The final chapter of this Hollywood tragedy is perhaps the most revealing of all because it shows us exactly what happens when the lights go out and the cameras stop rolling on a manufactured image. We are now entering the territory of total brand collapse, where the financial and social consequences of the Justin Baldoni settlement are starting to manifest in ways that no amount of designer couture can fix. The industry is whispering that the lively lockdown has officially begun, as Blake's team retreats into a defensive crouch, desperately trying to stop the bleeding while the public continues to demand answers for the workplace toxicity that has been exposed. The fallout has now reached a point of no return with the news that several major production deals involving Blake's production company are reportedly being re-evaluated by top-tier studios. In the brutal world of entertainment, being a difficult star is one thing, but being a brand-toxic star is a death sentence for future projects. Executives who once saw Blake as a safe bet for romantic dramas and high-fashion thrillers are now looking at the data, and the data shows that her name is currently triggering massive negative sentiment across every major demographic. The perfect girl image was her greatest asset, and now that it's gone, she is left with nothing but the rubble of her own making. One of the most shocking developments in this third act is the reported distance growing between Blake and the elite social circles she once dominated. While she sat near Anna Wintour at the Met Gala, insiders claim the atmosphere was icy at best, with many of the industry's most powerful figures keeping their distance to avoid being associated with the ongoing controversy. It's one thing to have a public scandal, but it's another thing to be seen as a liability to the Hollywood establishment. The silence from her celebrity friends, which we noticed early on, has now turned into an active distancing campaign that is leaving the actress more isolated than ever before. And then there is the financial hit to the Betty Boss and Betty Boo's empire, which was supposed to be the family's billion-dollar legacy. Marketing analysts are pointing to a sharp decline in brand engagement and retail interest following the unsealing of those court documents. When you build a brand on lifestyle and relatability, you are essentially selling yourself, and if the public doesn't like the person you are, they aren't going to buy the drink you're holding. Reports of retailers scaling back their orders are starting to surface, suggesting that the Baldoni backlash has moved from the comment section to the grocery store aisles, hitting the Reynolds Lively bank account where it hurts the most. Speaking of Ryan Reynolds, the pressure on his personal brand has reached an all-time high as the public begins to view him not as the charming jokester, but as the enforcer of the family business. His involvement in the behind-the-scenes manipulation of the film's narrative has tarnished his golden boy reputation, leading many to wonder if his wit was always just a cover for a more calculating nature. The humor isn't landing the same way it used to, and even his most loyal fans are starting to ask why he felt the need to use his massive platform to undermine a director who was just trying to do his job. The power couple dynamic has shifted from relationship goals to cautionary tale. The legal community is still reeling from the details of the settlement, specifically the freedom of speech clause that Justin Baldoni managed to secure. This is being seen as a monumental failure on the part of Blake's legal team, who were supposed to ensure his total silence. The fact that Justin can still speak about his experience means that the sword of Damocles is still hanging over Blake's head. Every time Justin gives an interview about creativity or workplace respect, the public will immediately read between the lines, and Blake will be forced to relive the humiliation all over again. It is a perpetual PR nightmare that she cannot escape. We are also hearing reports of a mass exodus from Blake's personal staff and the production team that worked on the film. People who were once afraid to speak are now reportedly looking for ways to share their stories anonymously, fueled by the feeling that the power structure has finally cracked. The stories coming out are painting a picture of a set that was divided by loyalty tests and cliques, where those who didn't align with the lead actress were systematically sidelined. This level of granular detail is what truly destroys a reputation, as it humanizes the victims and makes the star look like a common bully. The impact on the domestic violence charities that were supposed to benefit from the film's promotion is perhaps the most heartbreaking part of this entire saga. Many organizations have reportedly expressed disappointment that the serious themes of the movie were overshadowed by a petty ego war. The performative activism that Blake's team utilized at the start of the press tour has backfired spectacularly, leading to a broader conversation about how Hollywood uses sensitive social issues as a marketing tool. This has led to a trust deficit that will make it very difficult for Blake to ever position herself as a social advocate again without being met with extreme cynicism. As the dust continues to settle, the New York Post and other major publications are continuing their relentless coverage, with headlines that are becoming increasingly bold in their criticism. The media halo has completely vanished, and in its place is a hungry press corps that has found a new favorite target. For a couple that has spent millions on managing their image, this lack of control is clearly agonizing. Every move they make is now being interpreted through a lens of optics management, making even their most genuine efforts look like a calculated strategy to regain favor. The irony of Blake's situation is that she was the one who allegedly wanted more creative control over the film, but in grabbing that control, she lost control of the one thing that actually mattered, her legacy. The film will now forever be remembered not for its story, but for the scandal that erupted behind it. It is a permanent stain on her filmography that no amount of future success will ever fully erase. In Hollywood, memories are short, but the internet is forever, and the receipts of 2026 will be just a click away for the rest of her career. Justin Baldoni, on the other hand, has become the unexpected hero of this narrative. By refusing to engage in the mudslinging and focusing on his integrity, he has managed to achieve a level of respect that Blake can only dream of right now. His production company, Wayfarer Studios, is reportedly seeing a surge in interest from creators who want to work in an environment that prioritizes respect and collaboration over star ego. He didn't just win a legal battle, he won a cultural battle, proving that you don't need a $400 million PR machine to come out on top if you have the truth on your side. The psychological impact on the lively Reynolds household is said to be intense, with rumors of internal friction as they try to figure out who is to blame for this disaster. When your entire identity is built on being the perfect couple, a public humiliation of this magnitude can shake the very foundation of your life. They are reportedly living in a bubble of their own making, surrounded by yes men who are struggling to explain why the world has suddenly stopped loving them. It is a classic Hollywood tragedy of ego, where the protagonist becomes the villain because they refuse to listen to anyone but themselves. Looking forward, the road to redemption for Blake Lively looks incredibly steep and littered with obstacles. She will likely take a hiatus from the public eye, hoping that time will heal the wounds she inflicted on her brand. But in the fast-paced world of 2026, a hiatus can quickly turn into irrelevance. The public has already found new stars to follow, stars who don't carry the baggage of workplace allegations and professional sabotage. The throne she once occupied is being filled by others, and it remains to be seen if she will ever be invited back to the table. The final lesson of this investigation is a warning to every celebrity who thinks they can manipulate the public with a smile and a press release. The era of the untouchable star is over. We live in a world where transparency is the new currency, and if you aren't being authentic, the internet will find out. Blake Lively tried to play a game of chess with the public's intelligence, and she ended up in checkmate. She underestimated the power of the underdog and the investigative spirit of an audience that is tired of being lied to by the rich and powerful. This is the end of the line for the fearless narrative. The truth didn't just come out, it exploded, leaving a trail of humiliation that would define Blake Lively's career for the foreseeable future. Justin Baldoni has ended his silence, and in doing so, he has spoken for every professional who has ever been bullied by a more powerful colleague. The mean girl mask has been removed, and the person underneath is finding out that without the glamour and the PR, she is just another person who made a series of very bad choices. So, as we close the book on this chapter of Hollywood history, remember that fame is a fragile thing, and respect is something that must be earned every single day. Blake Lively had the world at her feet, and she lost it because she forgot that the people who watch her movies are the same people who can hold her accountable. The drama is over, the settlement is signed, and the truth is finally out. Hollywood will never look at the lively Renault empire the same way again, and neither will we. What do you think about this final collapse? Did Blake get what she deserved, or is the internet being too harsh on Hollywood's former favorite girl? Is Justin Baldoni the new king of workplace integrity, or is there still more to this story that we haven't seen yet? The comment section is open, and we want to hear your truth. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because in this industry, the next scandal is always just one leaked email away. Stay skeptical, stay curious, and keep looking for the truth behind the glamour. This is the breaking news that Hollywood tried to hide, but the truth always finds a way out. Good night, and stay tuned for the next update in this ongoing celebrity saga. The curtain has finally fallen on this elaborate Hollywood stage play, but the conversation is only just getting started. We've peeled back the layers of couture and PR spin to reveal a reality that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds never wanted you to see. The golden couple narrative hasn't just been challenged, it has been fundamentally dismantled by the power of truth and a public that refuses to be gaslit anymore. But now, the real question belongs to you, the audience who sees through the smoke and mirrors. Do you believe that a red carpet appearance and a strategic sit-in chat can truly erase months of documented workplace toxicity and professional sabotage? Or is this the beginning of a permanent shift in how we hold the Hollywood elite accountable for their behind-the-scenes behavior? Is Justin Baldoni's newfound freedom to speak the ultimate checkmate in this high-stakes game of reputation? And what about the industry's silence? Is Hollywood protecting its own, or are they quietly waiting for the next empire to fall? We want to hear your most unfiltered thoughts in the comments below because your voice is the only thing the PR machines can't control. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and get the real stories that major outlets are too afraid to touch, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are committed to digging deeper into the documents and receipts that the elite tried to bury. Turn on those notifications so you never miss a moment of the truth. Thank you for watching, and remember, the glamour is temporary, but the receipts are forever.